You might also be wondering how the voltage-gated sodium and voltage-gated potassium channels don't open at the same time. They're both more likely to be open when the membrane potential is higher. So why don't they just open at once and cancel each other out? The answer is kinetics. The term kinetics refers to the probabilistic temporal dynamics of a molecular reaction or movement going from one state to the other. Channels with fast kinetics are able to move rapidly back and forth between states, say open and closed, or active and inactive. Channels with slower kinetics move more slowly. We can think about these slower mechanisms as being stickier in some sense. Remember, all of this movement at a molecular scale is driven by the thermal jostling and jiggling that we talked about earlier. A whole host of factors can make a reaction or conformational change faster or slower. Parts that fit together more tightly take more energy to be shaken loose by random thermal movements. In some cases, the structure of a molecule might present interference, making it harder for a lock and key-like mechanism to fit together. In other cases, the stiffness of a separating tether might govern how easily two pieces can interact. The kinetics of the channels and the probability of the doors or channels opening and closing changes the permeability of ions at different times during the action potential. If the sodium and potassium channels had identical kinetics, then there would be no action potential. The kinetics of these voltage-gated channels also contributes to something we call a refractory period. Basically, a period of time when we can't or can't easily stimulate another action potential. There are actually two different kinds of refractory periods: an absolute refractory period and a relative one. The absolute refractory period is driven by the inactivation kinetics of the voltage-gated sodium channels. While those channels are stuck in the inactive state, we can't initiate another action potential, no matter how hard we try. The relative refractory period occurs at the tail end of the action potential. The voltage-gated sodium channels are active again, but the voltage-gated potassium channels are still open. With a big enough stimulus, we can drive another action potential to start, but it takes a bigger input, since the cell is starting below the resting potential. These refractory periods aren't an accident or a flaw. It's an important part of the choreography of the action potential, which we'll discuss more in the next section as we investigate how signals, action potentials, propagate down the axon.